I've been asked to talk about what moves me and about my journey with corporate volunteering. And the first thought that came to my mind was a question. Do I have enough to say? Is it big enough? And is it actually interesting enough? And when reflecting on that question, I have realized that I have been asking myself this kind of question over and over again. If I can really create an impact and if what I'm doing is actually meaningful. And I have found that a lot of the people that I am hanging out with are asking themselves the same questions. And I'm very sure that there are more of them. A lot of them. We are living in times that feel overwhelmingly complex. Looking at the climate crisis, armed conflict, inequality, and the fast development of technology that goes far beyond the capacity of what our mind can understand, it can feel really overwhelming. And I know many of us who feel a deep desire to contribute to making a positive change. But there's one thing that they may have in common, and that is the fact that they are not sure about where to start and what to do to make an impact. In my work with teams and organizations, I have learned something so profound yet very simple. Teams can really make an impact, become really impactful when they share a common sense of purpose and connection. And whenever I have met a team taking responsibility to overcome barriers and create something together, I have seen that this sense of purpose and connection has been generated. And whenever I have found that things have been complicated, I have recognized that this shared sense of purpose and connection has not been visible or missing. But why is that such a challenge? A lot of us are working in organizations that don't make it easy for us to find and follow a common purpose, to be totally connected. They are operating based on structures that feel abstract. We are building products and services that seem disconnected from the purpose they promise and from the suggested value they provide to society and the environment. And even if a lot of those organizations already address environmental and social responsibility somehow, still a lot of these organizations are functioning based on extractive business models. And sometimes, for me personally, it feels like we're squeezing a lemon. We're squeezing our resources like a lemon until there's only the skin left. Thus, we are building organizational and technical debt that we can hardly oversee and that we can even harder pay back. Navigating to such systems intuitively and authentically without wearing a mask can be pretty hard. It leads to people acting out of fear and out of ego and insecurity rather than of connection and out of the purpose they want to follow. And beyond that, there are even more challenging aspects of our times. We are living in an era which is full of conflict between nations, generations, genders, and identities. And within all those things that apparently separate us, it can be pretty hard to find something that actually connects us. But I'm very sure, I deeply believe that there's actually something that connects us. And that is the simple insight that within those dysfunctional systems, everybody is somehow suffering. Yet at the same time, most of us want to do something good, something for the better, longing to contribute to a future that is worth aspiring for. In one of his books, the Dutch author Rutger Bregman brings it to the point. Put simply in my own words, he finds that people are actually good and cooperative, fundamentally good and cooperative, and that destructive actions arise primarily because economic, political, and social structures hinder or distort good behavior. And this pretty much matches with what I am experiencing in complex environments. And more than ever, I am observing this complexity. And I think that more than ever, we can see how much everything is interconnected. It takes only a single disruption in our global supply chains that make an entire system collapse. We have seen that during the COVID pandemic, the chip crisis, the Red Sea crisis, and so on. And in addition to that, there are technologies like AI that make it even harder for people to keep track. So in all of this, it is very valid for a lot of us to ask the same questions. Where should I begin and what should I do to make an impact? When I'm looking back on my journey, something became very clear to me. And that is the fact that there is actually no single big act to carry out, but there are only countless tiny little acts that carry each other forward. One might start with a single breath, or with an intention, maybe with a very small and conscious gesture, and with a kind word or some courageous moment where you stand up, show up, and say something. And these very small underlying acts can compound to extraordinary impact, especially when they are carried forward and grow beyond individual barriers into co-creation. And my experience, especially working with ReDI School, has shown me this from multiple perspectives. With the help of companies and volunteers, providing refugees, migrants, and marginalized locals with tech education and community to enter the labor market, ReDI School was addressing the issues of integration, demographic change, and access to skilled employees at the same time. When they opened in Hamburg, together with some like-minded colleagues from the organization that I've been working in, we were very sure from the start that we wanted to contribute. We didn't really know where to start, how we will be able to measure the results or what to expect from it. But we had no doubts that we actually wanted to join this initiative and to partner with them in corporate volunteering. A year before, I have just finished my master's thesis on the topic of creating shared value, which is basically the idea of companies creating real value and competitive advantage by integrating social and environmental responsibility into their core business. And ReDI School was actually a living example of that concept. So, of course, nothing else made sense for me than joining them. And I've been in touch with them already during the interviews for my master's thesis. And personally, I was very curious to test that idea together with some people from the organization I worked in. So, when we wanted to contribute, ReDI had an urgent need for volunteer teachers to teach the introductory courses to computer science in their first semester. And there was one of our colleagues, one of our bachelor's working students in the organization. He was pretty fresh. His name was Theo, and he had no teaching experience at all. But he wanted to join, and he decided to join as a co-teacher in the first course, Introduction to Computer Science. He was quite nervous, to be honest, but he showed up anyway and grew with that experience. And he became one of the main teachers in the course and eventually coordinated all the other teachers and the course contents during the semester. And in the end of the semester, he even moderated parts of the graduation event in front of almost 100 people. That has been pretty impressive to me. He actually came from a place of curiosity and not knowing what would happen, and he started small and apparently stepped into leadership and grew far beyond what he actually thought what he was capable of. And the story spread within and outside our organization and inspired a lot of other people. And so in the second semester, we were already 7 volunteers who were joining the courses. And we have even learned something from the past semester and started to contribute differently. We were enhancing our collaboration by mentoring, career workshops, and career events. And we have even started to acquire the first talents of the group of students. And over time, we even grew further. We created a community of more than 25 people who were volunteering in some or the other way. And the community spread beyond local and organizational boundaries. Some of the students who joined us became teachers. And some of the co-teachers who started from the beginning became mentors and leaders. And everyone in the community grew a lot. And there is even another story that I would like to share with you. And that is the story about Sadia. Sadia was one of the students in the agile methodology workshop that we have been carrying out for quite a while. In software development, we learn early that in complex problems require an iterative approach to learn as early as possible and eventually fail forward towards a solution. And usually, we help the students experience this approach in a playful and interactive way. And Sadia took that idea very seriously into her personal life, and she has eventually organized a donation project and raised more than 150,000 euro to support a hospital in Pakistan using agile methodology. And when she shared that with me during one of the demo days at the end of the semester, I was deeply moved. That was one of the first moments when I realized that small acts that we are carrying out can compound to a measurable impact that goes far beyond our expectations and far beyond any possible forecast. And all of these experiences, they have shown me another aspect of it. When people are working together on a shared purpose, it creates a very strong bond and a kind of co-creation that can lead to impact that goes beyond the act and far beyond the number of individual acts themselves. This is a kind of impact which you cannot steer or control. It is created based on trust and space, which allows the very first act to happen, even if you don't know where it will lead to. And this is not only a story about individuals. It is just as well a corporate story. It can help us understand what we need to do to create an impact, a meaningful change in organizations that is so much needed in our current times. So if we consider that everything is interconnected and companies do not operate in a vacuum, when companies act in service of society and the environment, they are not just being nice. Actually, they are being smart. And this is what Porter and Kramer call creating shared value. The hard thing about this is that you cannot forecast the return on investment, and that requires a lot of trust and courage from the leaders and decision makers in the companies. So if you would be asking yourself the question, where should I start? Is what I'm doing enough? And what can I do to create an impact? No matter if in your personal life or in your corporate environment, here is my suggestion. Don't wait for the big acts. Don't wait to be ready for the big acts. Actually, there are no big acts at all. There are only tiny little acts that follow one another. And if you start with an intention and take then the smallest visible step that feels aligned with your values, maybe if it's mentoring someone, maybe it's showing up to being a volunteer, or maybe it's simply creating space to listen to someone's ideas, you won't know where this will lead to. But if it comes from a place of creation, comes from the heart, and inspires connection, it will eventually ripple out in co-creation to make a difference you cannot imagine. And maybe this moment right here, you being here, sitting and breathing, maybe this is already the first small act. Thank you.